Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now Bitcoin has been continuing to play out the bearish divergence in the short term and now officially wiping out the liquidity that was sitting below the price of Bitcoin, as I've warned about here on the channel. But we're now hitting oversold in the short term in the Bitcoin RSI, which we need to pay attention to, while the Bitcoin dominance is starting a rebound in the short term, which is not good for the altcoin market, as we're starting to see for Ethereum, obviously with this quick drop off in the short term, but now starting to run into crucial support, along with XRP playing out the same quick drop off, but running into a crucial area of support. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. But on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, obviously we still have a massive bearish divergence to watch out for, which is technically still active, as I've been saying every day for months now on the channel, since pretty much all the way back around July to August. I've been talking about this massive bearish divergence, telling you since months ago that we're likely going to have a larger slowdown, a larger cool off for the price of Bitcoin. Not necessarily the end of the bull market, but basically don't expect a massive, huge all-time high breakout with high momentum, is what I've been saying essentially almost every day since 2 months ago. And of course, you can even go back on my channel and watch my videos from around 2 months ago, back around July, talking about this massive bearish divergence and this larger slowdown over the next few months as a very likely outcome, when pretty much everyone else out there was saying the opposite. But if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, obviously just in the last couple of weeks or so, we have been playing out a short-term bullish relief, a little bit of a regain in some bullish momentum, moving towards a bullish crossover. But obviously right now we've not yet confirmed a bullish crossover, and in fact, as of recording this video, we're now potentially starting to gain a small amount of bearish momentum again in this indicator. But overall, the MACD indicator on the 3-day time frame is actually looking relatively neutral. It's not really showing a significant amount of momentum in either direction. Once again, we could see short-term bullish moves and short-term bearish moves, but we're not really seeing huge high momentum movements towards the upside or towards the downside. We're still kind of just bouncing around relatively sideways. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, obviously the price pretty much perfectly rejected from this Fibonacci level here, sitting at just above 117,000. So as I've been saying since before, we perfectly rejected from just above 117,000. Obviously continue to expect a lot of resistance at give or take 117,000, acting as a strong level of resistance, which means expect rejections and the price to struggle around this area on the price chart. And now some potential good news to watch out for is if the price bounces very soon and does not go really any lower than this point as of recording this video. If we bounce very soon and in the coming days, maybe over the next week or so, come back up towards roughly 117,000 towards these highs, that would potentially complete the formation phase of an inverse head and shoulders pattern, which would be a bullish price pattern. But obviously right now, that's still a long way from potentially completing the formation phase and then ultimately confirming. And so that's just something to watch out for in case we see a bounce very soon. Obviously that would be good for the bulls out there. And in terms of support and resistance to watch out for, the next major point of support is really at around 113,000, give or take. So we're basically testing around this support close to 113,000, give or take. But if we continue a little bit lower, we have a lot more support at just above 110,000 and significant support all the way down here in between 106.7k to 107.6k. And if the price of Bitcoin does end up bouncing very soon, in that situation, I'd expect a little bit of resistance at roughly 114.5k, and once again, significant resistance at give or take 117,000. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, taking a look at the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, obviously, as I've already been warning about every day here on the channel since all the way back around here, we have a short-term bearish divergence on the 4-hour time frame, which is active and is playing out, which means we should not really be expecting a lot of bullish momentum or bullish price action, and instead we're likely going to see either bearish price action or maybe at best a bit of choppy sideways price action as the most common outcomes from a bearish divergence. And so obviously, as I've already been warning about since days ago now, this is still technically playing out, but keep in mind here on the 4-hour time frame, we have now hit oversold for the first time since pretty much all the way back here around 19th to 20th of August. And now it's important to understand that an oversold signal by itself does not guarantee that we've hit the bottom, but what it does mean is that we're quite likely going to see a slight little bounce now, or at least maybe a sideways consolidation, basically now a bit of a break from the bearish price action for at least around a day or two, maybe longer, but at least 1 or 2 days. We're likely now going to see a little bit of a break from all of the bearish price action in order to simply reset the RSI back towards the upside out of oversold. But remember, that does not necessarily guarantee this is the bottom, kind of like what we saw last time we saw an oversold signal on the 4-hour time frame in the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI. We did see a bit of a bounce, a little bit of a relief over the next 1 or 2 days, give or take, but ultimately we did end up forming some more bearish price action later on, so just keep that in mind. But usually after a volatile move like this in the price of Bitcoin, we tend to see basically the price stabilize a little bit over the next 1 or 2 days. So essentially expect either some choppy sideways price action or maybe a very slight little rebound like this is essentially what I'm predicting over the next 1 or 2 days as a very likely outcome. And obviously we have now seen a change in the short-term price structure here on the 4-hour time frame. Previously, for the last couple of weeks or so, we were in a short-term bullish trend, as we can clearly see, forming higher lows and higher highs, but we've now seen a clear breakdown of that price structure because we broke below this low right here very decisively, which is now obviously pointing in the bearish direction when we're talking about the short-term trend. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, obviously we now perfectly wiped out that liquidity that I warned about in my last video. I said in my last video, beware that we have liquidity now building below the price at just above 114,000, give or take 114K right around here. So I said when the price was back up here, expect as a very likely outcome another bearish move coming very soon to wipe out that liquidity. And so the good news now is that we've already wiped out pretty much all of the liquidity that was sitting below the price. Obviously we do have a small amount still below the price, but most of the liquidity is now sitting above the price, still at around 118,000 towards around 119,000. So give or take 118K, just above 118K, we still have a lot of liquidity around there. But just keep in mind, obviously that is now a decent distance away from the current price, and of course we'll likely find some points of resistance along the way. So even if the price does ultimately move towards that liquidity now, of course expect a lot of resistance along the way, which means the price could possibly reject or struggle at those certain points of resistance, like for example around 114,500. I would expect a decent amount of resistance around there, and of course give or take 117,000, even just above 117,000, acting as strong resistance. And if we're taking a look at Bitcoin's historical performance by month, we can see that usually around August, September, this time of year is often a red time of year. We usually end up seeing some bearish price action around August, September as a very likely outcome, simply based on Bitcoin's history. And what's very interesting is even after this latest drop off in the price of Bitcoin, at least as of recording this video, the current September this month is still sitting very slightly in the green. So once again, this is actually quite normal to see either low returns, if not negative returns in September, especially around August, September. But the great news about this is, of course, September is almost about to end. We're approaching the end of September here, and we're about to get into Q4, the fourth quarter of this year. And usually Q4, especially near the beginning of the year as well, but especially Q4 ends up usually being the most bullish time for Bitcoin, historically speaking. And so in particular, October for the last multiple years, every single year since basically 2018, 2019 onwards, we've seen non-stop bullish price action in all of the Octobers, going all the way back towards around 2019. And also November historically is pretty bullish, along with December relatively bullish, but especially October is one of the most bullish months in Bitcoin's history. So keep that in mind. We're about to approach October, one of the most bullish months, out of obviously one of historically the most bearish times, August, September. And so obviously, as I predicted months ago here on the channel back in July, most likely in the next couple of months, I said back then, in the next couple of months, August, September, expect a larger cool off as a very likely outcome as a result of this significant bearish divergence. But potentially leading into October, we may end up seeing a little bit more strength for the price of Bitcoin if history is any indication. And what's very interesting is, of course, after the latest drop off in the price of Bitcoin in the crypto market, of course, a lot of these funding rates, Bitcoin and crypto funding rates, are still sitting below neutral, with some of these funding rates, especially for Ethereum, sitting in the negative territory. And so obviously this tells us there's a lot of people interested in shorting these crypto assets, at least with the negative funding rates right here. A lot of people looking for short positions, not many people looking for long positions right now, which actually opens up a possible opportunity, not financial advice, but essentially the further these funding rates go negative, the more likely we could see a little bit more of a bullish move, causing some short liquidations. But once again, when we're talking about Bitcoin specifically, what I expect, at least in the short term for the next 1 or 2 days, as I said earlier, is basically a slight little break from the bearish price action. Not a massive bullish move or anything like that, but just a little bit of a relief like this is a very likely outcome now over the next 1 or 2 days. And in case you're wondering about my personal Bitcoin trading strategy, of course, over the last 1 day with this drop off in the price of Bitcoin, I am now out of my Bitcoin long positions. Obviously, I've been showing my Bitcoin long positions over the last 1 to 2 weeks or so. Basically, this bullish trend right here, this short-term bullish trend, I have been longing Bitcoin. And then, as I've also been saying along the way during that trade, I have been taking profits along the way, especially around 117,000. I've been saying since before we hit that level, that is a major take profit point for any leverage trades, like a leverage long position. That's personally why I'd be taking a lot of profits. And of course, I did that as I shared here on the channel in my last few videos over the last 1 week or so. But obviously I didn't close the entire trade at those levels, just taking some decent profits off the table, reducing the size of the trade, still leaving some of the trade open in case we just continue to break out here. And of course, having a stop loss sitting in profits above my entry. So right now, essentially those trades have now been stopped out in profit. So even in the worst case scenario, which is what happened right here, of course, I still came away with profits from those trades using my Bitcoin trading strategy that I've been sharing here on this channel. And so right now I'm still just waiting for potentially another signal to open up an entry for another trade. But of course, I will keep you up to date here on this channel as always every single day. And if you want to get set up ready to go to take these trading opportunities in the price of any crypto, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I've been taking a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim massive trading and deposit bonuses. For example, up to 120,000 USDT in trading bonuses here, and also deposit bonuses. For example, if you deposit as little as $100, you get a $20 bonus on your account, or if you deposit 1,000 USDT, you get a $200 bonus onto your BTNX account. Basically free money from the exchange, which you could use to trade over on BTNX, but only if you use that link. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, another exchange that I also trade on, as I've been sharing over the last 1 or 2 weeks, has been 2bit. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim massive bonuses. For example, you can claim up to 10,000 USDT in trial fund bonuses and 8,000 USDT in actual withdrawable stable coins. So basically massive free money here just by trading crypto using that link. And also without making any trades or any deposits, you can get a free $30 sign up bonus, but only if you use that link, and 1 month free VIP3 upgrade on your 2bit account, which basically means very cheap trading fees over on 2bit, but only if you use that link. If you don't use that link, unfortunately, you cannot claim any of these major bonuses here. Basically free money from the exchange just by making an account using that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, links below this video. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart here on the 3-day time frame, and right now the Bitcoin dominance is continuing to play out that short-term bullish divergence that I've talked about a few times now over the last 1 week, give or take. And so obviously this is causing a little bit more of a short-term bullish relief in the Bitcoin dominance. And as always, if the Bitcoin dominance is playing out any bullish price action like what we're seeing right now, at least in the short term, that is not good news for altcoins. So while this plays out, at least for now, once again, maybe it's just a short-term move, but at least while this is playing out, that is not good for altcoins. Expect some bearish price action, or at least a lot of altcoins to underperform Bitcoin, which of course means if Bitcoin is bearish, it means a lot of altcoins are doing a bit worse than what Bitcoin is doing, which is not good for altcoins. But if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, we can see that right now the price of ETH is still trading in the same sideways price range that I've been talking about for not just weeks, but months now on the channel. And in fact, the price of ETH just perfectly bounced from my exact area of support that I've been talking about, sitting in between around 3.9k to 4.1k. So basically the moment we dipped into my exact area right here, we perfectly bounced from that area, found a lot of support in that area of support as expected. And so in case you're new to all of this, effectively what this means is there's a lot of people out there looking to buy Ethereum in this area on the price chart right here is basically what that means. And where people are looking to sell Ethereum or take some profits on Ethereum is of course this area, starting at roughly 4.8k, even just below 4.8k, and going up towards around 4.9k. So in the higher $4,000 area, just under 5,000, we have a lot of resistance around there, basically meaning a lot of people are looking to sell or take profits around that area. And so obviously this is continuing to cause a sideways price range for the price of ETH, basically just chopping around between support and resistance, as I've already been predicting for months now on the channel. And if we're taking a look at the 8-hour Ethereum price chart, looking at the shorter term, obviously we could see the moment we confirmed a break below this support right here, that was a major bearish signal to watch out for. And obviously I've talked about that area of support many times over the last few days, which was sitting in between around 4470 to 4.5k. And over the last few days, of course, I've been looking at the 4-hour time frame, and on the 4-hour time frame, we already confirmed a break to the downside, and we were in the retest phase, simply testing that previous area of support to possibly flip it into new resistance. So that was a crucial moment for Ethereum, and we can clearly see that the price of ETH failed to break back above that area, and we did indeed flip that back into new resistance, kind of like what we saw back here, breaking below, flipping into new resistance, which is of course bearish price structure. That is a bearish signal, and ultimately was potentially one of the signals as to why we saw this major drop off, obviously also following what Bitcoin was doing. But not only did the price of ETH properly confirm the break below this area, just underneath 4.5k, we also broke below this important area of support here, which was sitting in between around 4250 to 4280, so just under 4.3k, which previously has acted as a lot of support. And obviously the price just broke straight through that area, showing a major bearish move right here. But we dropped right down towards this next low in the price of ETH, sitting in between around 4060 to 4.1k. So at around 4.1k and just under 4.1k, we still have a lot of support around there, at least based on this previous low. And obviously that's pretty much exactly where the price bounced from, around this previous low. But obviously we ran into this significant area of support here that I've been talking about for months, in between 3.9k to 4.1k. So as I've already been saying for months, the moment the price gets down towards around 4.1k and dips just below 4.1k, expect a lot of support, expect a lot of bounces from this area. But now that the price has broken below these important areas on the price chart that I mentioned earlier, I'd now expect resistance in these areas, considering the price is obviously below these areas on the price chart. So now expect resistance in between around 4250 to 4280, and major resistance in between around 4470 to 4.5k if the price ultimately tests those levels again. And honestly, I expect similar price action for Ethereum as what I said for Bitcoin just earlier in the video. So for example, if Bitcoin plays out a slight little relief now, maybe over the next 1 or 2 days, kind of just chopping around, but slightly, very slightly in the bullish direction, I expect something very similar for Ethereum, possibly retesting this area coming soon, but not really showing a significant bullish move back towards the upside, at least straight away. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 2-day time frame, obviously right now the price of Solana is breaking below this important level on the price chart, which was sitting at around $230. But as I've been saying here on the channel, if we break below 230, expect a move down towards around 215 to 216 as the next price target, the next point of support to watch out for. And we can see the moment we broke below 230, we quickly dropped down towards that next price target of mine, around 215, 216, and pretty much perfectly bounced from around 216, within $1 from that level as expected. But technically speaking, even though the price of Solana is obviously playing out a short-term bearish move, breaking below 230, we're technically still within a larger bullish trend, forming larger bullish price structure. Believe it or not, we're still technically forming higher lows and higher highs on the price chart. Now, that would potentially change if we break below around 190 to 200. That would be a crucial level to hold above in terms of the larger price structure, not just the short-term moves on the price chart. And so for the bulls out there, once again, we still have around 215 to 216 as short-term support to watch out for. But if we break below that level, the next crucial area, very important area to hold above, is this area of support in between around 190 to 200. And of course, I'd now expect a bit of resistance again at roughly 230 if we see a little bit of a rebound here. And of course, more resistance, especially at around 260. But now that we have formed a high in the price around here, I would expect some resistance at around 245 to 250 as well. And of course, along with the fact that Solana is just following very similar price action to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the rest of the crypto market with that short-term bearish move, along with that being one of the main causes to this short-term bearish move for Solana, of course, another cause to this pullback in the price is this bearish divergence, which is technically still active on the 12-hour Solana price chart, as I've been warning about every day since all the way back here. And so once again, as I always say, when it comes to a bearish divergence, the most common outcomes from a bearish divergence are either bearish price action or maybe just some choppy sideways price action. But essentially, we should not be expecting significant bullish momentum anytime soon, and a bit more of a cool off is very likely moving forward. So obviously, this is still technically playing out as I've already been warning about since much higher prices, but at least as of recording this video, we've not yet confirmed an end of this long-term bullish trend, at least not as of right now. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, obviously right now the price of XRP is still being influenced and still playing out this massive bearish divergence on the weekly time frame that I warned about months ago now on the channel. You can even go back and look at my videos months ago, since basically around July, almost at all-time highs, I warned about this bearish divergence causing a larger cool off, a larger slowdown, and quite possibly a larger pullback over the following months from July onwards. And obviously that has been playing out as I predicted all the way back then, when pretty much everyone was telling me I was going to be wrong about that. And so obviously this is still playing out as I predicted months ago. But if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, right now the price of XRP is still just basically in a bit of a sideways price range between support and resistance. So we perfectly rejected from this area of resistance, sitting in between around 310 to 315, and we basically retested this important area of support where we've seen many crucial bounces from, and that's sitting in between around 270 to 280. And so basically continue to expect a lot of support in that area and a lot of resistance in this area, and for the price to most likely remain in this sideways price range moving forward, considering the strength of this support and the strength of this resistance, causing the price to remain range bound, simply bouncing around sideways. And as I always say, XRP, along with a lot of the major altcoins, will likely follow similar price action to what Bitcoin is doing. So for example, if I'm expecting maybe a slight little relief from all of the bearish price action in the next 1 or 2 days for Bitcoin, so maybe some choppy sideways price action, but leaning slightly to the bullish direction like this, if I'm expecting something like that for Bitcoin in the next 1 or 2 days, expect something similar for XRP, just kind of playing out a little bit of a break, a little bit of a relief from all of the bearish price action, but not necessarily a massive bullish move straight towards the upside like that. And so in other words, expect the price to remain range bound, still holding above this support, which is some good news, but ultimately not really showing massive strength towards the upside, at least not straight away. And if we're taking a look at Chainlink on the daily time frame, what's very unfortunate for Chainlink is now we're starting to form a lower low. We've technically already now confirmed a lower low, but in terms of the daily candle closes here, we're potentially getting very close to officially confirming a lower low in the daily candle closes in the price of Chainlink. And so now that the price of Chainlink is forming a lower low, breaking below this previous low, this is now basically confirming the previous lower high in place now. So obviously we already formed this lower high in the price chart, but as I've been saying recently here on the channel, I've been saying if we break below around $22, that will now technically confirm this lower high as a lower high in the price chart and not just a little bit of a pullback before we continue another bullish move. And so in other words, this is now a major breakdown in the larger price structure, not just a short-term pullback, but quite possibly now starting to form a larger bearish trend that could play out over at least a period of weeks, maybe even a period of months. And so really the only chance now for Chainlink to possibly change this around back into the bullish direction in terms of the larger trend is if we very quickly, I'm talking about ideally in the next 1 or 2 days, break out back above $22 and actually hold above this area. If that's the situation in the next few days or so, it is possible we could avoid that much larger bearish trend. But if we really fail to get back above $22, it could be a similar situation as what I said earlier for Ethereum. Once again, we broke below this area, failed to get back above this area at around 4.5K, and we saw what came next. So once again, $22 is the crucial level we need to now reclaim in order to potentially avoid something worse. And so I'll now expect some resistance at roughly $22 and just above $22. So really in between $22 to $22.30 approximately, expect some resistance around there. And as for support, expect a lot of support at close to $20, but really in between around $19.50 to $20. We have a lot of support around here on the price chart, which the price almost perfectly bounced from very close to $20, only just above $20 as we could see. And once again, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what the price is doing, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.